It's my feel-good breakfast show.
There is never enough time to get through everything we need to do every day. I'm speaking about myself, and I'm sure you can relate. This morning, we are chatting to Nikki Bush, a human potential expert, about how to reframe our relationship with time. Nikki, a very good morning. Thank you for giving us your time this morning. We really do appreciate it. How are you?
Thank you, Graeme. I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Nikki, before I give you a bit of context as to why this has become almost an obsession of mine where I am in my own kind of life journey and as a parent, I want you to state this, proclaim it, lay it down for us. What is our most important resource?
Well, it's time. It's time, Graeme. But actually, I want to reframe that it's not time, it's our attention.
Yes.
And it's where we focus our attention, where we choose to focus our attention, because time and attention are the finite resources. They're the scarcest resources we have, and they're the resources that make the biggest difference in terms of our relationships as well as our success at work.
Before we get very emotional and talk about the relationship and when we start to layer over that the idea that this is finite, that we have a limited amount of times left in our life to be present and connect with the people we love the most, I'm going to look at the other word that you said there, success, because time is obviously very much woven into our long-term projection of what we want to achieve. So what differentiates one person's success from another's?
Such a great question, because it determines everything. Because where I choose to focus my time and attention will be very different to where you choose to focus your time and attention. And it doesn't have to be the same, because what you term as success and what I view as success is going to be different. And everybody is like a unique fingerprint. So one size doesn't fit all. And if you think about this, Graeme, you have a family of two, you have a permanent partner, versus somebody else your age who may be single, footloose, and fancy free. How they use their time and attention and how you use your time and attention is going to be distinctly
very different. I get that it is all completely relative, but I think there is one common thread between most of us, and it might sound a little bit silly, but to-do lists. All of us, I have on my phone different notes of different layers of to-do lists, of long-term, of short-term, we all have these plans. What do we do with these long to-do lists, and how do you feel about making lists in terms of what you need to achieve within the time that you've got?
Oh, you're talking to the list queen here. I mean, I thrive. At the end of every day, I create my list for the next day, and I know I'm not going to get through everything. I know, I've been doing this for long enough to know. That list directs our day. And I think where we have to be careful is that the list can become a task trap. And sometimes it's a cover. Busyness can be a cover for success. If we've got a lot to do, we must be being successful. If we've got a lot to do on our list, we must be okay. But sometimes that is misdirected, and we land up putting so much on that list that it's overwhelming. We don't get to finish it. But what's really important is this question. And this is a question that I picked up from an amazing woman called Shalmina Abji, who became a vice president of IBM. And she came from the dusty plains of Tanzania, from a poor family background. And she's just done incredibly well. And she worked through corporate America with two small children as a single mum. Yeah. And she said this to me recently. She said, we very rarely stop to ask if what's on our list is worthy of our attention. Is it worthy of your attention? So where you spend your time and your energy is directly linked to your self-worth. And we often push ourselves to do a lot of stuff that maybe other people could do for us if we delegated it. And maybe we're doing stuff that's not important.
Doesn't deserve our attention. It's not how much time you have, it is what you are focused on with that time. We're going to delve into the relationship aspect a little bit deeper in just a moment. Nikki, I'm going to ask you to stick around. Such an interesting conversation to have here. I'm going to proclaim it because I had a bit of an epiphany when thinking about this, that maybe the most important relationship with time that we have is with the people that are closest to us. And ultimately, the most important thing is spending time with those that we love the most. You can ruminate on that for just a moment. We'll be back with Nikki, our human potential expert. She's going to break it down for us. We are reframing our relationship with time.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
We are continuing a very important and timeous conversation with human potential and parenting expert Nikki Bush around reframing our relationship with time this morning. Something that we are all subject to, but we all react completely differently. So next, I'm going to jump right in because the weird thing is I've been thinking about this so much ahead of our conversation that time is the most precious resource when it comes to spending time with the people we love. What is the most important objective when it comes to spending our time?
I guess, Graeme, it's having quality time when we're with those people. So if you're not going to be with people on a regular basis, you do have to make a point of being fully present in the moment. And that goes for being in meetings too in the office. You know, you can be in a meeting but not really be present because your mind is elsewhere on that task list, that to-do list, because perhaps you are misdirecting your time in too many directions. And, it could be, for example, that you are chasing deals at work. And if you've got 20 deals on the go, you're going to be spread really thin versus maybe picking 5 and going deep and doing quality work and quality investment of your time and attention with deals that are going to make a difference and maybe get you closer to your view of success. Going back to relationships, investing your time with people who are really close to your heart and making a difference in your life versus spending some frivolous time maybe with people who are not that important to you. And when you've got finite time, you do have to become a little more choosy. A friend of mine said that she had 5 more summers left with her daughter, and that was at the beginning of her daughter's high school career. Oh. And that daughter, who is my goddaughter, turned 21 this year, and those 5 summers are gone. Now, what she meant by that is that she could only guarantee that she would have a summer holiday with her daughter while she was kind of still in school. Now that she's in university, she's got her own life, and she doesn't necessarily have to come on holiday with the family. So what is the quality of the time that we're spending with those we love and those we're trying to build deep relationships with in the business world?
Luckily, my daughter's going to live at home until she's 30. That's how it's going to work in my life. I love it. Picking up on something that you mentioned in our last discussion, our self-worth. How is time linked to our worth?
Graeme, this is a fascinating conversation, and it relates more to women than it does to men. Okay. Women often say yes to more because we have been conditioned to be selfless, to be nice, to collaborate, to give of ourselves, because then we must be being a good person. And we find it much more difficult to put boundaries in and to say no. And this is a message particularly for women today, that if you see you are doing too much, you must ask yourself that question. Is what I'm doing deserving of my attention? Is it worthy of me? Because a woman often says, am I worthy of it? And that is just eons of conditioning. Yeah. So your self-worth is so linked to the decisions that you make. Ask yourself, is this important? Is it worthy of your attention? And I'm finding that it is really making me think twice about some of the things that I'm engaging with. And that's a good thing. It's an exercise in perspective and being a little more conscious about whether doing something is going to take you closer to what you believe is success for you, or is it taking your eye off the ball? And that is success and winning at both work and at home in your personal relationships too.
Well, that being said, it means you've got to learn how to say no sometimes. How do you get that right? If you are someone who is used to pleasing people and giving so much of yourself all the time, how do you go about setting those boundaries?
The interesting thing, Graeme, is when we become a little less negotiable and when we are firmer and clearer about our boundaries, we actually generate respect. And you can put a buffer in where you can say, you know, this sounds like a really interesting thing to do. Let me give it some thought and I'll come back to you tomorrow. Or I need to check my diary because it's looking pretty busy at the moment and I will get back to you. So just to build in that breathing space so that you can take a step back and say, is this worthy of my attention or not? Quietly in the back of your mind. And then you can get back to people and you can say no firmly and kindly. You don't have to be rude, but people will learn very quickly to bring things to you that deserve your attention. And that is also a good thing, to train people not to waste your time either, because if you're the person who is the constant rescuer, the constant fixer, you often land up taking on things that you shouldn't, because people know you will. You're a softie.
I can see, I can distill all of this into a simple kind of observation. We need to be less busy and more productive. So how can people connect with you and gain more sage advice to be able to achieve this in their lives? How do we connect with you and tap into Nikki Bush?
Right, so I would love to continue this conversation. NikkiBush.com, otherwise Nikki Bush Speaker on Facebook. And there is so much on my website around saying yes and no, because if we don't say no, we do not give ourselves permission and space to say yes for the stuff that really counts.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for that advice. You can get more brilliant advice on how to future-proof yourself on that website. Again, nikkibush.com. I'm going to say it again. You've got limited time. Spend as much time as you can with the people you love the most.